I do not talk about sequels that often on this channel, for a couple of good reasons. Normally, when I sit here every 3 months and I do this big old video on everything that's coming out in a new season, I usually avoid sequels, prequels, and spin-offs. Why do I do that? Because generally speaking, I don't find there to be a point for me to recommend a second, third, fourth plus season of a show, when really what that is just recommending the franchise as a whole or the first season that already exists, and chances are if you were interested, you might have already seen it. When a show comes along with its like fifth season, it's like, okay, well, do I need to tell you to go watch this? Maybe, but mostly I've always felt that it just kind of takes up time that could be better spent for me trying to hawk and promote a different series that hasn't had multiple seasons yet that you may not have heard of. Of course, that does end up with me not talking about sequels at all. But if you happen to look ahead into 2026, you'll notice that there is not an insignificant amount of sequels that make up the bulk of our anime entertainment in the coming months. But the problem of sequels still remains. You might as well watch season 1. Well, depending on your lifestyle, if you end up doing a lot of traveling over the course of the holiday season, you may find yourself in a position where you are lacking content, shall we say. If you have long stretches of transit, whether by trains, planes, or automobiles, well, probably not automobiles. You're not watching anime while you're driving. At least I hope you're not. Let us say you are doing all of this and you have time and you are questioning yourself, what should I watch? What should I catch up on? Then today we are going to be going over a couple of series that have their second seasons airing in the new year and what you should spend your time on, according to me, because of course I have the best taste. Tastes so good that everybody's gonna expect this first one. 'Tis Time for Torture, Princess. It's getting its second season. And honestly, I'm starting off with this because it's probably the weakest thing that I'm going to recommend, but I'm doing it anyway. Now, why do I find it to be the weakest? Not because Season 1 was a bad series. It wasn't. It was quite entertaining. 'Tis Time for Torture is a comedy series where you have this princess from a different land. She gets captured by the demon lord and his minions, thrown into a dungeon, but then her torturer decides to torture her with a variety of different methods to make her talk. Most of them being rather cute and upbeat. The torture ends up becoming less of anything related to pain and more of a, hey, we have this really sweet food here. You wouldn't happen to be able to tell us anything about your army's progression or any weaknesses of your country. If you tell us, we'll give you this food. Oh, look at how great it smells. It's a comedy. It's not like extremely serious. And the situations that this captured princess finds herself in, I always found to be rather humorous. Now, the reason why I put it so low on the list of all of the sequels that are going to be coming out next year is because a part of me does worry that its shtick has kind of been played out. We've already had a full season of tortures for our princess to go through, and while the original material is continuing on and has continued and has a lot more torture to come, I don't know how entertaining it's going to be, and I worry that at least for myself, I might be a little done with it. But I'm at least putting it in here just to see, also because season 1 I enjoyed quite a bit, so, you know, worth talking about. I'm gonna follow that up with, like, the hardest one to recommend, purely because of how much you have to catch up on, because season 5, the final season of Golden Kamuy is going to be airing in 2026. Now, I haven't talked a lot about Golden Kamuy because, again, I don't talk a lot about sequels. And this, you know, being its 5th season, I would hope that you've heard about Golden Kamuy at some point, but maybe up till this point, you just haven't been convinced to go and, you know, watch it. I am not really thinking I'm going to try and describe Golden Kamuy because, you know, with 5 seasons already out, there's not an insignificant amount to cover, and it's not like a stereotypical show that's kind of the same thing just for 5 seasons. It changes a lot. Even in its first season, it kind of rides the line between like action adventure and cooking show. When the manga for this was coming out, it was like one of the first things, I think, or at least it was part of that first wave that got influenced by Delicious in Dungeon, where it's like, yeah, we're gonna have this cool adventure, but also food for reasons. And I thought that it integrated rather well. But of course, it's not always like that. There is a serious side to Golden Kamuy as well, and it is quite amazing. The adaptation has had its ups and downs over the seasons, but I'm hopeful that for this 5th and final season that they're able to close everything out quite nicely. So if you haven't touched Golden Kamuy, at least check out a couple of episodes of the first season to see if it is to your tastes. Ignore the bear. You don't understand what I mean by that, but when you see it, please ignore the bear. The bear turns so many people off, And I get it, the bear is terrible, but we're gonna have to ignore the bear, okay? Just ignore the bear, doesn't exist, watch the rest of Golden Kamuy. Pretend the bear doesn't exist. You'll understand when we get there. Now next we are getting Jujutsu Kaisen Season 3. Jujutsu Kaisen I think is popular enough that I don't have to explain too much about what's going on. Chances are if you're already a fan of JJK, you've already technically seen this. Because Season 3, or at least the first parts of it, were included in the JJK movie, which, at least in North America, is currently in theaters. Though I've avoided going myself for a variety of reasons. See my talk about the Demon Slayer movie to see how sometimes annoying it is to go watch a film here in Canada. And I'm mostly not bringing up JJK because it's a solid recommendation that I'm like gunning for, because I mean, if I liked JJK as much as the uber fan people, I would have already seen the film. But mostly because I do understand that, at least for some people not fully into it, that movie is confusing as far as like, do you need to watch it? And the answer is technically no, if only because to my understanding, again, having not seen the film, is that the film covers a big chunk of Season 2 as well as the first little bit of chunk of Season 3. That's what the movie covers. So if you don't end up watching the film, then watching Season 2 and presumably watching the start now of Season 3 will have you covered. You can kind of ignore the film. But maybe the film will have its own stuff, its own secret scenes that don't get adapted anywhere else. That could be a thing, but largely if you're just wanting to experience enough about JJK to see what all the hype is about, the seasons should do you fine. And now Season 3 is upcoming. Next is a sequel that I don't know if I want to recommend, but I'm just hopeful that I'm going to be further impressed by it. Trigun Stampede is getting its second season, though it's going to have a different name. This one's called Trigun Stargaze, and the reason why I'm a little hesitant was because, I mean, I finished watching Trigun Stampede, and I am a very big fan of the original Trigun, and even Badlands Rumble to a point. But Trigun Stampede, I had some issues with, mostly because, you know, it was a semi-prequel, and a lot of the things that I really liked and enjoyed about even just character dynamics in the original Trigun were not necessarily prevalent in Stampede. A couple of new characters were added. Other characters that should have been there weren't. However, one of the biggest missing characters I thought that Stampede didn't have was Millie Thompson, one of the two insurance girls. We had one half of the insurance girl combo, though she wasn't an insurance girl in the first season. Okay, and I mean, we've already kind of messed with the canon because both of the insurance girls are supposed to meet Vash the Stampede during the events of Trigun or Trigun Maximum. So to have Stampede come along and just be like, no, we're just messing with your continuity for kicks. There were parts of that I wasn't the biggest fan of, but you know, that's very similar to like the types of people that read the manga and then just say, no, the adaptation is crap unless it like one-to-one adapts the manga because they experienced the manga first. And that's what has been solidified in their brain as this is what this is. So, like, I've read Trigun Maximum, and I've watched the original adaptation, and I'm like, that is what Trigun is! So any deviation from that is a failure automatically, to parts of my brain, at least. I know it's an irrational part of my brain, but it's still there, and I have to live with it. And so, with the new Trigun series coming out and having fixed, at least ostensibly on the surface, some of my character problems, maybe that this will be fine and it'll be a great adaptation, especially since, you know, it's Studio Orange and I've always really enjoyed not only their work but their animation style in general. I think they're the best that can ever do it as far as 3D animation at the moment. And so I'm looking forward to seeing more Trigun and then just hoping I don't get disappointed. It's a small hope, but we can see. The next one, though, I can recommend wholeheartedly, even though it didn't get as much popularity as I really hoped that it should have, and that's Medalist. So Medalist Season 1 follows two main characters. You have a skating trainer who tried to become a professional skater, but because he started too late, he was a bit too old to learn all of the things that he needed to in time to get all of the skills, to get all of the abilities before his body just, you know, couldn't handle it anymore. He was a bit late to the party, but he is quite good at training others, and he ends up having a young girl who he ends up training to be a figure skater, and she desperately wants to be, and she has her own problems that has been holding her back over time, including her mom, but her mom seems to have come around now over the course of Season 1. It is a sports anime with the sport mainly being figure skating, but it has, I wouldn't say necessarily like shonen-y vibes, but like when you have a tournament arc, essentially, where she has competitions that she has to go to, things that she has to do to rank up in the world of skating, there's a lot of similarities there. And I wouldn't necessarily say that is what has been enjoyable to me, but it at least been a factor that I have enjoyed. The enjoyment for me is basically just the characters and how they have interacted and how they are dealing with their, I wouldn't say their mortality, because that makes it sound like death is involved, and it's not, but it's more of a dealing with the limitations that have been placed upon them just due to circumstances beyond their control. And then in the case of like our trainer character, how he works to overcome that in his young protege. I was very impressed by season 1. I wished that it got a little bit more spotlight and hype to it as I thought it deserved at the time, which means that you should go and watch that so you're all caught up and you can enjoy season 2 alongside me when it comes out next month. Now, if you want to get super prepared for upcoming seasons, in the spring season, we're getting season 4 of Rezero. What? And I mean, I have issues with season 3 of Rezero partially, but having not read the original material, I have been warned, or rather told, I don't know if warned is the right way of describing it, but I have been told that what is supposed to be adapted in season 4 is some of the best arcs that the entire show has ever had. And, you know, considering that what we've got of Rezero so far is pretty freaking good. That's saying a lot. Of course, that doesn't mean the adaptation itself is going to cover everything greatly. I've been worried about Rezero for a while because while we have seen a not insignificant amount of commitment from like White Fox and the adapters in general about how far they are willing to go for this adaptation as far as, you know, covering everything. I've been reasonably hopeful that the Rezero adaptation will continue on until it covers everything. It might not, but at least for now, season 4 is going to be coming out in the spring. But of course, that completely skips over the last thing from winter, which I have avoided only to bring that up. I suppose technically, if you really wanted to prepare even more, season 3 of Apothecary Diaries is coming out in October of next year. But I mean, me recommending that now is a bit overkill. You have plenty of time to catch up with all of Apothecary Diaries. And I say that as someone who is not caught up on Apothecary Diaries. We have time. We have time. Me, you? Yeah, we got time. I'm not going to tell you to catch up on Oshinoko because I'm not even caught up on Oshinoko. I really enjoyed it season 1, but for whatever reason, I just haven't felt the need to go and check out it season 2. I'm sure something will convince me at some point in time. That is not an invitation for you to attempt to do so in the comments or on Discord. What else? Oh yes, next month we are getting the start of Frieren season 2. Now, I'm a little worried on that. I'm pretty sure that there is enough content within the manga to handle an entire other season. But a part of me does worry about the pacing. As much as I enjoy Frieren and as much as I say that Frieren is my favorite anime at the moment, like of all time, and I continually stand by that and will until something tops it, I can say that Frieren season 1 is not without its faults. I can find fault even in the things that I enjoy the most. For example, pacing. I absolutely adore the pacing for like the entire first half of Frieren season 1, but I can also fully admit that once we started getting into like the mage exam arcs, that things started to slow down significantly by comparison. And it just became a different kind of show. I still enjoyed it, but I can admit that the pacing made it a different kind of show. And I'm curious of how that's going to continually progress moving into season 2. It also just happens to be that while I haven't been keeping up with the manga as far as like reading it, I have been keeping up with the manga as far as hearing about its releases or lack thereof. The mangaka is apparently having some medical issues and family issues and a bunch of other things going on, which has caused the series to go onto hiatus a couple of times and is currently on hiatus as I'm sitting here last I checked. I did stop paying attention because I didn't want to be too disappointed, because hearing about that sort of thing is pretty depressing, and when you already live in a world where almost anything that you read on the internet is depressing, trying not to overexpose yourself to the depressingness, especially when they are tied down to things that you really enjoy, i.e. my favorite anime of all time, I tend to avoid that. And so there is a part of me that is worried that this second season of Frieren is going to be the last season of Frieren, because they won't have enough to adapt after this. I hope that if that ends up being the case, that they're able to at least round off an arc in a satisfying way, so that even if this does end up being the last season, I can at least be satisfied by it and not end up in those situations with countless other shows where it's like, yeah, we got our season 2 even, but we're just gonna kind of end it with the knowledge that there is more and you should go read the manga or the original material, only for you to go read the manga and the original material and find out that, oh wait, there's not much more left. It's kind of like where I am on Made in Abyss, because we got through the end of Made in Abyss and there was like, I think there was only like 3 chapters unadapted by the time that season 2 of Abyss came out. There's more now, thankfully, but it's not like they're pumping out chapters at a record pace or anything. So the chances of that getting another season anytime soon is quite low. And you know, since that's another one of my favorites, it's a little depressing. And so now, if you ask yourself, hey, what should I be catching up on? that is the priorities for you. Out of even what I've listed, the priorities should probably be like Medalist and Frieren. I'm putting those two at the top because they're like my personal faves. I shouldn't need to tell you to catch up on JJK, because if you actually cared, you're going to do that whether I tell you or not. And then things like Trigun, Golden Kamuy, and 'Tis Time for Torture. I mean, that's all just personal preference. I mean, I can stand up on the ramparts and shout about Golden Kamuy, but 5 seasons in, I mean, if you haven't been convinced by this point, like, I don't know what else I can tell you. But really, no. Yeah, no, actually, I'm going to put that alongside. So it's like Golden Kamuy, Medalist, and Frieren. Those are the big ones, and everything else is just wonderful bonus. At least as far as I'm concerned, this is all my personal tastes in the shows that I'm making sure that I'm keeping up with. Don't expect me to talk about them in my seasonal video because they are sequels, prequels, and spin-offs, which you know I avoid. But that's it for our video this week, as I desperately tried to prepare my actual best of year video, hopefully to come out before Christmas if I am very, very lucky. But while I am working on that, a very special thank you to all of our patrons who make these videos possible, specifically patrons like Hector Montemayor, Aiden, Siri Yamako, Ryfen Bonaparte, Omar Showman, and Ross Emerson for being specifically awesome. I have now tasked you with a whole list of anime that you should go watch. I hope that by the next time we meet, you have, or at least started one of them. I'm not expecting you to go through 5 seasons of Golden Kamuy in a very short amount of time. I understand. But my point stands that until next time, watch more anime and stay frosty.